So, hello, we are just beginning our first Friday Q&A for June. Today is June 7th. I want to thank you guys for being on, for the two of you that are on. We only had, I think, 17 people that registered and sent in questions, but it looks like a lot of people are just sending in questions and may not get on the call. Now, I had a conversation with one of my board members. You guys, depending on how this continues to go, I may or may not continue this particular
Format.
service, just because, like, I get questions, and if the people are not on, the questions are not clear enough for me to address. So hopefully, either I'll get better questions for when people are not going to be on the call, or I will get more participation during the call so that there can be clarity with the questions. But either way, we will move forward with today. And I'm really happy. I'm getting a lot of questions from Arkansas. So that shows that my reach is starting to reach the individuals here. So I'm thankful for that. So we have, I see Sunny's coming on from Florida. So we have Martha in Mulberry, Arkansas. And her question is, what are the board position qualifications and duties? And so now, the normal positions are a board chair, a secretary, and a treasurer. And so now you can also have a co-chair. Let's see, but let me go over. I've got a lot of notes that I want to. I actually do a board development training, but I want to. Come on, my computer's moving kind of slow.
Did you say treasurer?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so now, also in the for-profit arena, a lot of times the board chair will be the executive of the company also. But I have to let you know that that's frowned upon as in the nonprofit arena. And so that being said, some of the board chair responsibilities may be that they recommend that they interact and recommend which board members should probably be on other committees that an organization may have. Like you've got your board of directors with your organization, but hello, Sunny, how are you? But you also may have like a scholarship committee if you're going to be giving scholarships to young people or whatever. And so those committees are not all the board members. Those are individuals that are not on the board, but I always recommend that at least one board member also serves on any committees that you have so they can bring that information back to the board of directors and let them know what's going on with that other organization. Now, other things that they may do, they work very closely with the executive of the company, but they should not be involved in the day-to-day operations of the company because that can jeopardize their board position. Because see, the board is there not to be operating in the day-to-day operations. They are there to do their fiduciary responsibility by reviewing what you present to them at the board meetings, which is why some companies, especially for-profit, have been able to falsify budgets and lie about the health of the organization because they have two sets of books. Again, the board only knows what you are presenting to them, but that's why now they have what's called not only a transparency clause, but a conflict of interest. They have conflict of interest clauses. They also have, what's that other document? How am I forgetting this? I'll think of it. But the reason for that is because of instances like Enron and Tyco and like Bernie Madoff that lied and said that the company's health was 50 billion more than what it was. Well, see, the board, if the board had been involved in the day-to-day operations, it would have known that. But because they were not, and they were only going by what's presented at the board meetings, they're thinking they're looking at what is, true. So if a board member was more involved, even with the Bernie Madoff situation, that board member would have done some time just like him because they were too closely involved. And there's no way they could have said that they didn't know about the money being stolen. So it's important, you guys, for your board to know how to remain a board member and for you to know how to interact with your board. Now, you might have a vice chair, and that way, if that board chair is not available for a meeting or whatever, there's someone that can step up to that. Or you may even prefer that your secretary or your treasurer can step into that role. It's up to you. There's no strict guidelines on how you must operate with your business. It's just your board must be in agreement, and that's why they have voting rights. So your secretary, they schedule board meetings, assist the board with member orientations. They take attendance of the board. You know, they're of course doing the board minutes and that kind of thing. They track board terms, and then the treasurer, they manage the budget based of what's going on as far as with the board, not managing the budget of the organization. There's a difference. Like if your board is also raising dollars and that kind of thing, then the treasurer may be keeping track of that. Or if the board is giving, you know, donations themselves, the treasurer's doing that kind of thing. But again, the treasurer is not also the person that's managing the day-to-day operations budgeting within the organization. Okay. So I hope that that answered those questions. Any questions with you guys on the call? Okay.
When might you do a workshop on a thorough explanation of that in board development?
I haven't scheduled a board training. My board trainings are usually someone hires me to come in and train their board.
Got it.
So, like, let's say that you're on like the committee that, or the organization you were just talking about. That organization may bring me in to do their board training, or if you have your own nonprofit and you want to do a board training, that's usually how I do those. Okay. So, and then her final question was, how long should a position be held by one board member? Now, the average term that I've seen the most is 2 years. You do not want to have a 1-year term because you want to give your board member time to learn the organization and to learn what it feels like to serve on your board. So that 1 year can pass really quickly and they may not be as effective as they could be. So they're usually 2-year terms, 3-year terms. And you also preferably want to stagger your terms so that as one is terming out, another one, you know, another one still has another year or 2 years and that kind of thing. Okay. Now, there's something else that always comes up about boards. People say, well, Sherita, I've been told that I always should make sure that I have an odd number so that if we have to vote on something, that there won't be a tie. Well, see, the executive of the organization, with the way that I train, is you are a non-voting board member. You're not voting every time, but you can be that tiebreaker. Okay. So if your organization, because you might be really striving to keep your number at an uneven number, but still only 4 always show up. Because we all know, no matter whether we're part of a team at work, a baseball team, anything where you have a gathering of people, there's always you might have 12 people, but there's only going to be 3 or 4 that are consistent, that are always showing up, that always are asking, what do you need? And so it's the same way with board members. And so even though you've strived to have an odd number of 7 or 9, but I always recommend, if you are a new organization, start out with 3, because it's very hard to manage even board meetings and work effectively with your board when you have a huge number of board members and you're just learning the ropes yourself. Okay. Melissa in Little Rock, she says, what are the most important things to consider when utilizing a financial representative? Well, I'm not sure what kind of financial representative that you're looking for, but on an average, if you know how to budget, then getting a financial advisor early in the game is not advised. Now, according to Smart Assets, generally, if you have 50 to 500,000 in revenue, you then might want to consider a financial advisor if you're trying to see the best ways to do something with your dollars, whether it's um um what are all those different money market kinds of things that you can put your money in. But if you're talking about as far as a nonprofit, you're not going to be putting your money away like that. You're going to be utilizing those dollars within your programs and services. So again, if you know how to manage your own budget, see, this is where some people go wrong. Even if they get, let's say that you get 100,000 small business loan at the beginning to just start managing your organization. Where a lot of people have gone wrong is they spend out on positions that they didn't even need. So,
That question was more about the person that you put in place while you're waiting on your 501c3,
oh,
where
so
you can
Melissa,
go
this is
ahead.
you. Good, good, good. Okay, so you said the question is more so about which?
So like if to work in partnership with another nonprofit for them to be your financial covering while you're waiting on your 501c3 approval.
You mean, oh, like a fiscal agent?
Yes, that part.
Oh, I'm glad that you're on then, because I didn't understand that. The fiscal agent it's all about relationship, Melissa. So let's say that you know someone that was going to be like a helicopter kind of fiscal sponsor. So every week they're calling you and asking you what's going on with your programs. And well, how much have you spent? Well, how many people are in your programs? You may have that kind of helicopter fiscal agent versus someone that says, great, you can use my organization. And you guys might have a bi-monthly meeting to talk about what you're doing. So it's about relationships and how that person manages. And that's what you really want to consider, Melissa, when you're looking at
Once you have that, how do you move forward with that process? Once you've identified somebody that you feel like would be a good fit, then what are your next steps to putting that in place?
okay, if they have been a fiscal agent before, then they probably have a fiscal agent agreement on how they want the relationship to go, whether they want to meet monthly, bi-monthly. Also in that agreement, they may say that that whatever funding funnels through them, they're going to get 5% or 10%, but they would need to justify if they're going, and funders do not frown on a fiscal agent or a fiscal sponsor getting the dollars. But if they want to go too high, like 15, 20% of what you're getting, that could make or break whether someone's even going to give you the money or not, because they don't want to see a lot of their dollars going to administration like that. Now, if the fiscal sponsor is going to be doing something with the project, like maybe they're doing some consulting on the project too, then they won't be double dipping and getting fiscal sponsor money percentage and getting paid as a consultant. So this is where your communication will talk about what is it that they're going to do. Like maybe your fiscal sponsor, like I've been the fiscal sponsor of an organization before, but also I'm a part of the contract and was their program analyst. So I was paid as a program analyst versus getting 5% of the funding that was funneling through the organization. Did that help, Melissa?
Yes. And are there form templates and things like that? Because the person that I have in mind has not ever done that before.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, you could even just Google search fiscal sponsor agreement
oh, cool.
samples or that kind of thing. And then you ask what areas of or situations usually stall in approval. Since I have been doing this since 1994, answering the questions wrong. That it's a 30-page tax exempt application, and it's all about understanding how to structure as a nonprofit. So they may even ask you who is serving on your board and looking at and they may see that all of your board members are your brothers and sisters. Well, that can stall it too, because the IRS, I mean, that can seem like that's going to be nepotism going on. And so it's just about knowing how to answer their questions and what like when you are even filling in for designing your programs and services. If your programs can look as though you are operating more as a for-profit entity and just becoming a nonprofit, but your sole purpose is to make money and not to make a difference, that can stall. That can stall you. And the IRS will steady send back asking you questions. And that's why, like Beverly knows, like she's been in my class, that's why we try and make sure that all of your programs are designed accordingly. Not for you. I mean, yes, you can make money. You have to in order for your organization to survive. But you also want to structure your program so that you can show that you're going to have great outcomes with the people that you're serving. So any other questions? Am I being clear on that, Melissa?
Very clear.
Now the IRS will also on the application ask, let me open it so that you can kind of see what I'm speaking of. Just going to open the IRS tax exempt application. Is it showing on your screen?
Yes, it is now.
Okay. So let me make it a little larger. Okay. So, you know, they have the standard questions. Are you a corporation, LLC, or whatever? And then here, provisions requires that your organizing documents state your exempt purposes, such as charitable, religious, educational, or scientific purposes. Well, something as simple as this: if you are forming your organization and your articles of incorporation are not, that is not present in your articles of incorporation, the IRS will send that back. They'll send back your application. See, what people don't what people don't tell you, they may tell you, well, it took a year, 2 years to get my tax exemption. And that makes it seem like the IRS is just really, really, really slow. Well, that's not always the case. What they didn't tell you is the IRS kept rejecting their application. Now, the IRS will keep rejecting it, and they don't give you, well, if we reject it twice, then you can't get it. No, they'll keep rejecting. You might go back and forth 6, 8 times. But what people don't tell you when they say how long it took them to get their exemption is they don't tell you they kept getting rejected. And it's because of how you answer the questions. Like here, where they're asking about your compensation and your board. This is where they're asking about your board of directors. And if they see in here that you're paying your board of directors, but you are becoming a 501c3 organization, they may reject you because that's not the norm. And you better have some great explanation on why those board members are being paid. Okay. Or here, are any of your officers, directors, or trustees related to each other through family or business relationships? If yes, identify the individuals and explain the relationship. Well, depending on your relationship with who you have on your board or even on your staff, it can be rejected. So that's why it's really important to understand how to complete this paperwork, and so that you because there's so many different ways when you're answering these questions that the IRS will reject and come back with even more questions. Okay. So anything else on that one, Melissa? Nope, you're good.
I really love that you pulled that up and showed that. That's super
Good,
helpful.
good.
Some of us are out here absolutely winging it and have never done anything or been associated with nonprofit and are absorbing every sentence that you say. So I really
Well,
appreciate it.
again, that's why I do these classes, because I understand that. And I mean, I've got 30 years of this. So, and I like to answer as many questions as possible without having to charge the $150 an hour, you know? And in a group setting, you get more out of it. at least to me. And I think that that it's better for all of you guys because you're going to hear questions that you would not have thought of asking. So your third question is, how do some organizations have a nonprofit working alongside a for-profit? Well, that is a great question, and I have a few examples. Like Fiji Water is a for-profit. You guys do see my screen still, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fiji Water is a for-profit company that also supports a charitable trust called the Fiji Water Foundation. And I didn't know that. I happened to be at a hotel. They had the water there at the nightstand, and while I was drinking my water, I happened to turn it over and saw the Fiji Water Foundation. And I was like, what? And so, but Fiji Water is a for-profit company that also supports the charitable trust. The foundation's priorities: clean water, providing access to clean water for rural communities; education, building educational facilities and infrastructure for children, teenagers, and adults; healthcare, providing access to healthcare services for underprivileged communities; disaster relief, offering assistance during floods and other severe weather events. Now, what do you think they're offering during those disaster reliefs?
A lot of water.
Water. And that's why too, now I'm showing you large organizations that are doing it because these are multi-million or billion-dollar companies. And if they can have a for-profit and a nonprofit, then why can't you as a small business? So that's why I'm going to be showing you the larger. I'm going to show you the big boys. Okay. And they also have environmental sustainability, promoting environmental sustainability throughout the country. Walmart, of course, we all know Walmart, and they have the Walmart Foundation. Last year, Walmart and the Walmart Foundation provided more than $1.7 billion in cash and in kind to support programs that align with their philanthropic priorities. They focus on areas where they can do the most good, combining the unique strengths of the business the unique strengths from the for-profit business. Okay. And that's those strengths that you would also be showing and reflecting when you're running your nonprofit, and your strengths should also show up in the grant application because you're showing them that you have the ability to do what you say you're going to do in a nonprofit. So that's why I wanted to just really stop and explain that there. So drawing from their business strengths, providing more than just funding helps our philanthropy to deliver greater social impact. Today, Walmart.org, through the combined philanthropic efforts of both Walmart and the Walmart Foundation, creates opportunities for people to live better every day. So even if you have a for-profit, you might be an accountant. You can have a nonprofit to be able to offer accounting services to those individuals that normally could not afford you, because grants can cover your costs to be able to help those individuals. Okay. Target.
So you could essentially do the very same work you do, only have a nonprofit addition to that.
Absolutely. That's why I work with a lot of small businesses, because you can do exactly what you do in your for-profit, but now you're doing it for individuals that normally could not even benefit from your services.
And so then you just need to brand it and do the book separately, I would imagine.
Everything is operated separately because the IRS needs to know who to tax and who not to tax.
Right.
Okay. Target, of course, we know who Target is. And then there's the Target Foundation. Since 1946, we have given 5% of our profits to communities in cash, products, and through the Target Foundation, which today, averaging, they give 4 to 5 million weekly.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And I'm showing these because people always think that grants only come from the government. And there's so much other money. Government dollars are a drop in the hat compared to a lot of the other funding that's out there. Target says, at the Target Foundation, we envision a world where all families and communities have the resources they need to determine and realize their own joy in life. It's a reality that is out of reach for far too many families. Out of reach, right? So what I'm saying to you, if you have a for-profit, there are a lot of people that you are out of reach. So you can have a foundation that it spreads your footprint, it spreads your brand, and you're making a difference. Okay. It's a reality that is out of reach for too many families, okay, that as they struggle for access to economic opportunity and stability, for equity and for the kind of empowerment that lifts up their communities. We believe we have a responsibility to work to remove structural barriers and help create access for those who have been left out. When we shift power to communities, they are more meaningfully participate in the economy, creating a world where all families can thrive. Okay? So now before I move on, since you're on, Melissa, any other questions?
No, that was, so they're all set up. Okay, how do you set that up? I guess it's the same way you set up any other nonprofit. It's its own individual entity.
It has to be its own entity, and you would have to do the Form 1023 like I just showed you.
So what's happening is people are just putting the nonprofit, and I have a friend that has a successful nonprofit, and they have several additional, no, they have a successful for-profit and then have several additional initiatives that are nonprofit. And you see all of them on their website at one time, but that's not a conflict because behind the scenes, they all have their own books and they all have their own
yes, and that's why
formal representation.
And that's why when people are looking at something, they say, oh, they can't do that. They're a nonprofit. They don't know how they're structured.
Got it.
If the IRS approved it based on the way they showed the structuring, then who are you to question it? Because again, it's about learning how to structure it. There's a lot of nonprofits that people don't even realize are nonprofit. Again, like IKEA, the furniture store. Now, they don't have one here in Arkansas, but many of you have seen the big conglomerate, the furniture store, IKEA. It is a nonprofit. But you don't know all of the funding that they give to communities, and they fund those that are wanting to go into interior design. And you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. Just like a lot of people didn't know that Fiji Water had the Fiji Water Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people didn't know that the Oscars is put on by the Oscars Foundation. That NASA is a nonprofit sending people to space with all of this expensive equipment. Well, someone has to investigate space and science for us to know what's happening around us. So
they don't even present themselves as a nonprofit on any of those that you just mentioned.
If you go and read on their sites, they will tell you.
Right, but they actively perform as far as branding and marketing in this world just as a business entity. Yes, it's transparent that they are, but
that's because nonprofits are businesses.
Right. I think there's such a misunderstanding about that. I've talked to several people lately, and I've kind of communicated some of the things I've been learning from you. And when I say I'm doing nonprofit, they immediately assume that means I'm going to be broke and penniless, and and shouldn't I be doing something else also to make some money? And I'm like, but that
and it's all because of their lack of knowledge.
Exactly.
Because our economy and across the world, the economies would have totally collapsed had it not been for nonprofit funding, which is stimulus funding. See, they don't understand the operations of what nonprofits can do, and there are different kinds of nonprofits.
This is a remarkable situation, really. I think if people could get a hold of this, it would change the economy for many, many states, if not, many, many communities, if not entire states.
Well, again, that's why I hold these classes. But and that's why I encourage you guys, please share for people to get on the calls, because we could be making greater differences in our communities if people knew. A lot of the funeral homes that you go to, though funeral costs are high, a lot of those funeral homes are nonprofits so that they can also get dollars to cover costs for people that wouldn't be buried because they didn't have any money. The hospitals we go to, unless they say privately owned, are nonprofit. There are a lot of fire departments that operating in a lot of our major cities are nonprofit. A lot of the funding that goes into the police forces and extends them getting more police officers on the streets are funded by grants. It's just people don't know. Mm-hmm. And so again, the more that I can educate through these means, the more that people can be more effective and will stop looking down on the nonprofit arena or expecting everybody to look like they're starving when they're operating in this arena, because that's not the case. Okay. Melinda asks, when looking for grants to do city cleanup or tearing down abandoned homes, is it possible, meaning as far as grants? Absolutely. And with her being in Conway, Arkansas, I just saw this today coming up on June 12th. And I'll send this link. I'm going to put this link in the recap. But there's the community development block grants. They have a meeting coming up on June 12th. And there's also an action plan that you can get to see what all it provides. But community development block grants help with jobs. It helps build homes. It helps demolition of communities when there's a lot of ran down unoccupied buildings and homes in a community. That lowers the economic stability of that community. So there's funding to clean that up and to rebuild. So this was a perfect time that you asked this question. And with this coming up right here in Arkansas, you can make sure and be a part of that. And it's going to be on June 12th, 10 to 12. So I will make sure that I provide this link. This will be helpful for everyone that's here in Arkansas, but also for those that aren't in Arkansas, just Google CDBG grants. That's Community Development Block Grants. Every municipality has CDBG grants. And you want to look at those no matter what it is that you're doing in your communities. Okay. Whitney in Dallas, Texas asks, how can I receive grant funding for theological education? Well, there is so much money out there for theological education, but it also depends on, are you Baptist? Are you Catholic? Are you Buddhist? And so there's different kinds of funding, but I'm just showing you an example. The Henry Luce Foundation. It says that the program cultivates diverse knowledge communities to advance a more nuanced public understanding of religion. We support knowledge makers who reconsider accepted histories, weave new narratives, and imagine alternative futures. Now, there's more money now that I've seen than before because the church pews are getting more and more empty. But what studies show that people that believe in some kind of religion, that believe in the spirituality, they do better at work, they make better students, marriages last longer, they have better health. I mean, there's so many statistics that are proven for people that are spiritual beings, that have a spiritual want to be involved spiritually, whether they go to church every Sunday or not, but they believe in something bigger than themselves. And they will operate from that perspective, and they would just be better. They'll be better even when they're alone because you're fed like somebody's watching. So, but there is funding available. And so, and then now we've got, let's see, I was going to do a search if the person was on, if you told me that you had what other kind of religion you were. But with you not being on, guess we won't do that search. Let's see. LaShawn in Marlton, Arkansas says, becoming a nonprofit, what is the process? Well, I think I just answered that question by showing you the tax exempt application, the Form 1023. Now, if any of you have an interest, I do have a nonprofit masterclass, and I walk you through completing all your documents, everything that's required for the IRS. It also is a coaching program to help you with nonprofit management, program development, budget forecasting, all of that. And so if you're interested in that, matter of fact, if you are not on my website to receive the information that I send out regularly, please go to philanthropyalliance.org. I will make sure and have that in the chat, in the session recap, and register where it says contact us so you can get information. And or if you're on my social media, but you might miss it depending on if you scroll or not. So that's why I always suggest that people get on my database. Okay. Question 2. Available health and beauty focused grants. Well, of course, there are grants for that, but now what are you going to do with them? Are you talking about health and beauty grants for a beauty shop? Are you talking about health grants for someone with cancer? Or are you talking about grants, wellness for preventive health? it all depends on what you're talking about. So I'm just going to go out and do a few searches that hopefully this can be helpful for you. Let's see. Because there's grants for alternative health, there's grants for if you're just focusing on making a difference with people that are dealing with cancer. But if it's for you individually, there aren't grants, just individual grants to help individual people. So I'm not sure what you're speaking of, but let's put in grants and health. And I'll put in 2024. So I'm not, if I knew more specifically what you were going to be doing in health, then I could be more specific in my searches. But just putting in grants and health and 2024, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Paul Newman's Foundation, apply for grants, Blue and You, that's through like the Blue Cross Blue Shield kind of funding, social determinants of health. And so now I'm just going to put in this, I'm going to say million, just for you to see that there's also, large amounts, 12.5 million in funding with the Alliance Foundation. Biden administration announces 7.8 million in grants to help. Oh, I didn't mean to click over there. To help connect people to healthcare. So again, I don't know what kind of health you're speaking of. HRSA announces 15 million in new investments for health. But again, it just depends on what you meant by health. Now, when you say beauty, are you talking about helping people with their makeup? Or are you talking about doing someone's hair? And who is your target population? Like, for instance, I showed a Mary Kay consultant how she could have her own nonprofit, not just to train individuals to sell her Mary Kay, but she could be getting products and then going into even schools and helping young girls to do their makeup better, to do their makeup where it's presentable, depending on where they're going. Or they may have some special formulas where people that are dealing with skin conditions, so she could be going into hospitals and making women feel better about themselves as they're dealing with long-term illnesses in hospitals. So it depends on what your focus is. Okay, so I hope that that has been helpful. Let's go back. Let's see. So next, question 3, expanding offered services, guidance. I'm not sure. I mean, are you a nonprofit and you're wanting to know how to collaborate in your community? Or I'm just not sure what you mean by that. Oh, Whitney, you've got your hand up. I just saw that.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I was trying to get on earlier, but I missed where you actually answered my question. Whenever you get done with the previous person, I just wanted to go back to my question.
Jump right in right now, Whitney.
Okay. I think I sent in, I was looking for grant funding for theological studies because I had a vision for myself after I actually got out of school.
Okay, so are you going to be a pastor of a church, or what are you going to do?
So once I get out, I do see myself pastoring, but my focus is Christian education. And from there, once I actually grow a following, I wanted to begin having actual conferences for Christian education where people come to various workshops and learn different aspects that actually empower them and enrich them in Christian education.
So Whitney, you missed right here where I just faster answered yours, right?
Yes.
So what I talked about, I showed here the Henry Luce Foundation, where
Okay.
they have funding. And then I did a search that you can do. 1 second. And then whatever I did, I end up missing. It is on the recording. But let's see. Okay, here I did the search, grants for theological education, and I put in Texas.
Okay.
And so just doing that simple search, see what comes up?
Yes.
And then depending on like, let's say that you want to teach Bible classes to young
Mhm.
students, then there's funding. There's different funding for that. Grants, youth. See how it brings up a different funding?
Yes.
Or
Okay.
if you're wanting to use the spirituality for marriages or marriage counseling,
Okay.
then there's different funding for that. So the thing is develop what I call your tickler words of the different things you want to do, and that's how you will see that there's different funding for that. Like,
Okay.
for instance, the Lilly Foundation gives $45,000 a year just for clergy to go on sabbatical for 3 months, and will pay also the salary of the clergy that's taking that sabbatical clergy's place. They'll pay YMCA memberships. They will pay for spa days because they know that people that are serving other people in that capacity are giving a lot of themselves.
Wow.
So there's all kinds of funding, but you have to just know, okay, you guys, the best way to know what kind of funding that you want is what are the outcomes that you want to come from it, and who are you going to work with? And then that being said, then what searches can you do to identify those particular that kind of funding? Okay. So is that it, Miss Whitney?
Yes, that's the only question I had so far. Thank you so much.
Okay. And if you have any others, I'm trying to see how to lower your hand.
She should be able to
I think
lower
I
her own
sent
hand.
you, I
Yeah,
sent you a chat.
I just found it. All righty. So let's go back and see what other questions do I have. That was LaShawn. Sunny. And Sunny, I'm glad to see you on, my dear. And let's see, Sunny. Miss Sunny from sunny Florida. Can you buy discounted retail products for a fundraiser silent auction event and deduct the cost from profits? Well, for one, when you're buying those are expenses that are already going to be in your budget prior to the auction. So you would just be showing in your budgeting, Sunny, the products that you bought, and it was an expense, and then you would just show what they were for. But now, instead of selling them, you're doing auctioning. So now you're getting in donations for that. Okay, so you won't need to then deduct from that monies, because that's already being transacted in your budgeting prior to. Did that make sense?
Absolutely. So that just clarify. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, my dear.
Okay. Okay, great. That just clarified how to do it. I just wanted to make sure that that made sense. So I get where I would put it in the expense column for the purchases, and then the money from the silent auction just goes into the fundraising, the amount that came in for fundraising.
Yes, it's just like anything else that you're buying, even the food at a fundraiser where it's going to get ate there,
Right.
but
Right.
it's just one of the expenses that's happening for the fundraiser. Now, what people end up not doing, and this is incorrect fundraising accounting. Let's say that someone buys donates $500 to your organization, and then with that donation they get back a gift bag. You know how you have swag bags at events, but that swag bag is worth $150, right? Then they actually didn't donate, they got something back from going into that event, so their contribution was only $350.
Awesome. I'm so glad you said that, because we are doing a fundraiser launch for the nonprofit, and there are swag bags. So, okay, great. So, okay.
Yeah, it's just like if someone gives a donation of $30, and they get back a hat worth $15, then that full that full amount they gave you, that you don't get that full amount as a they can't write that donation off as in the full amount because they got a gift back. Okay.
Okay, so now then that's my second question. Then if that's the case in the fundraiser, if you come to the event and it's say it's $25 donation, right? But you get stuff back, right? So if I was to give them a receipt for their donation, then they're not getting it for 25
No,
because of the swag bag?
right. Let's say that they came to the event and it included a $25 meal but they were getting a $50 donation. Then they really only gave $25.
So their receipt should only be 25 in that case.
Yeah. But
Okay,
you can explain that the receipt can even show that.
gotcha. Now, would it hurt me in any way if the receipt showed the $50? I mean, technically, I know you're saying that's not correct, but would that hurt the organization in any way? If we just, how if they go online and they purchase it and they automatically get a receipt,
Well, yes,
technically,
you would be showing the $50 donation,
okay,
but they can't write off $50 donation if they
okay,
got a $25 gift with it.
got you. So technically, on their end, they have to make the adjustment.
They
It's
make
not
the adjustments.
okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Because if you don't show the $50 donation, then your books are off. Right?
Gotcha. So it's really up to them to make the adjustment. It's not
It
up to me.
is. It's up to them.
Okay.
And that's why it's important to have a good tax person, especially if people are doing major donations. But
Right.
they got a major gift back too, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
because then if they gave $500 and they also got a $300 swag bag back, they're winning, and it's cheating as far as tax filing, because you're still able to write off $500, but you got a $300 gift back.
Right. I don't think most people understand. Well,
A
I
lot of
mean,
people
probably
don't. A lot of
right.
people don't, and that's
Right.
why now I would suggest that when you give them a thank you letter, that
Mhm.
it could even be in small print at the bottom of your letter or something, that understand that if you received a gift back, the value of that gift deducts from your actual donation.
Okay.
But see, a lot
So
of times, like when people get swag bags or something, they don't know the value. They can tell that it's something expensive, but they may not know the whole value. So that's why, when you have someone that wants to be correct with their tax person, they're disclosing gifts and that kind of thing. That's why tax people ask on tax forms, they ask about gifts, right? So
gotcha. So I don't have to say how much it's worth. I can put a little line at like at the bottom of the donation form, but I don't have to say, okay, what we gave you is worth this.
you can say, value if you want.
Okay.
Uh, our thank you swag bags are valued at, because you may have someone that really wants to report that in as far as to their tax person.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay, so we are at the end of the session. Anybody have any additional questions?
I don't have a question, but I messaged Whitney. I'd love to connect with her.
Okay, great. Whitney, did you get that in the chat?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I responded. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Great.
thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
I do have a question. This is awesome. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So you do this the first Friday of every month, is that correct? Or does it
It's the
change?
first Friday of every month. And I was saying to the class, you weren't on the beginning, if I don't start getting a better response, then I might stop them. Or if people can't be on the class, if they start make their questions clearer. Like I had 2 people and I just didn't even put their questions up because it just didn't even make sense for me to even show them. And both of them had 3 questions, but they just were, I couldn't figure out what to say. So you guys please share if you feel like this is a value. please share with your network. And
Absolutely. So my question was, I'm sorry, Sarita, I just want to make sure I didn't miss this too. So we will have one July 5th, that Friday.
it's every first Friday.
I just want to make sure I will be here. Thank you so much, Beverly. Beverly was the one that kind of mentioned it to me. And I thought about it today. I said, oh my God, let me put it on my schedule. So it is on my schedule. This is awesome. I will be here.
Good. Thank you. And if you can't, I understand. But you guys, if you cannot, just please make your questions really clear, because I don't mind that people can't be on, but if they register and then their questions aren't clear, then it kind of defeats the purpose. So, all righty, you guys. And I will say this even in my promotion, ask someone the question that you're asking, and does it make sense to them too? And if they don't, then you can reword it. All righty.
Oh, I have a technical, I just wanted to, you know how you tested with Melissa, the email?
Yes.
I'm just curious if you could test the email for me, just so I can see if I'm getting your emails.
All righty. 1 second. Let me go out.
And I had a quick
Now, was
question.
there attachment to it? Because most all the attachments I'm finding are going in my spam. But if not, now, like Melissa, yours didn't have an attachment, but I didn't see it. Go ahead, Miss Sunny.
And this is just a question, and I know we're running out of time. Do most nonprofits hold a launch fundraiser?
No, they
Okay.
can, but a lot of times to put on an event as a new organization can be costly. So now you're putting out money without having any revenue anyway. And you guys, most new organizations barely break even with their first couple of fundraisers. Understand that when you're doing a launch or some kind of fundraiser, don't have in mind to make a whole lot of money. Let it be something more so that it is like your coming out party.
Right. So
Because if you're expecting to make a lot of money, that I haven't seen an organization yet, unless they have a great celebrity that's attached to it, then you will just barely break even, or sometimes end up in the red with a fundraiser.
right. Well, in this case, it's a small fundraiser, but it's more like an announcement that we're here, kind of a thing. And it
Yes.
gives me the ammunition to go after all my friends for donations to the foundation. So we have the budget that we're coming in with for this is very small, which is
Yes.
awesome. The other part is my question was, oh, and this was my question, I didn't get it in. Okay, so all the expenses that it took to put the foundation together, right? The registration, domain, annual report, all that kind of stuff. Can I take that out of the money raised?
Well, now that's going to be up to your board. Take it out of to do what? See, what are you going to do with it? Are you putting is the money that you're raising? 1 second, Beverly, you said you sent me an email.
No, I didn't send one. I wanted you to send me one because I wasn't getting yours.
Oh, okay. Let me Sunny, I'm sorry, that was just on my mind too. So Beverly, let's see, you're Fagan, or you, let's see, B Fagan, is it?
B Fagan 1 at AOL,
Okay,
and it's FAGAN.
there you go. I probably should try to attach something, because it's usually when I have an attachment, but let's test it first just to see if you get that.
Okay.
Now, Sunny, now again, yes, it's more like an introduction, like, hey, we're here. And then from there, that's where you do a great job in introducing what your programs are going to be and who are you planning to work with or collaborating with, and have some of your future collaborative partners there and highlight them. And because when you do that kind of thing, then they're also going to invite people. Make it
Right.
where it's also like a virtual, invite your Facebook friends and have a Zoom
do
going
that.
like I did with the Rialto. And so that way it's a coming out like blitz.
Right. That's what we're planning.
Okay?
So we know what some of the funds are going to go for, as far as the next program that we're doing. Is raising money to open bank accounts for the underserved community. And I'm working with a bank on that, to come out and do a savings class and talk about that and open accounts for them on the spot. And we're raising their first deposit. So the silent auction is going to cover that. But my question was, is there any way to actually have part of the funds go to operations to cover like the expenses that we pay to run the business?
Well, what you can do is go after sponsorships to cover everything that you're doing.
Right.
Like ask that bank to become a sponsor. Ask other banks that may be that maybe where that bank isn't, but maybe you're reaching into other areas that doesn't have that bank, it doesn't have locations. So you go
Right.
ask that bank. Like US Bank is a major donor. Bank of America. Go to
Right.
Walmart and ask
Right.
them. Go to local,
Right.
eateries, and if you're going to have food, ask them to sponsor the food. And that way your event almost is totally free for you.
Right.
But I
So,
think what she's asking is the previous expenses prior to the event, like our initial setup and startup expenses.
Those are
How
just
can we
write-offs.
put money back in our?
Those are company write-off expenses that you can write off later. Are you asking, will someone go back and cover those expenses?
right, can I pull funds for that? Like say we just, did our annual report. And of course, it basically came out of, my pocket. So can I pull fundings to cover that as an expense?
How can she
Like
reimburse
to
herself?
reimburse you?
Yes.
That's where you talk to your board. And then
Okay.
your board can see the sweat equity and the financial equity that you're putting into your company. And your
Okay.
board can agree, you know what, once we've gotten, let's say, this much revenue into the company, then let's do something retro back to Sunny
Okay.
or to the
Okay.
owner for on an average, that person you've been spending $2,000 a month for your organization for the past 10 months. So they can agree to, once revenue comes in, to reimburse you back $10,000. But
Okay.
that's why organizations want you to have a board. Instead of you just deciding that and now taking money out of the coffers, your board has agreed that yes, you have been putting in this financial, and yes, you are going to be reimbursed.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So that's how we handle that. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You are welcome. Anything else? Well, you guys, thank you again. The link for registering for next month should be up today. The new link for July. And you guys have a wonderful one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you would, I think it's a good idea to put a little blurb in there in the link or in the little description, just to say that for people that are sending in questions and things, just let them know, listen, if we don't have enough participation, however you want to phrase it, but people need to know that, it's risking you not doing it anymore. You notice I get on here every week, every month, whether I have questions or not, specifically because I don't want this ever to go away. So you might want to say something about, the participation. We need to see folks on so that we can continue to do this. And then the questions are better, as we have a group to talk about them, things like that, whatever you want to say, but something so people understand that it's very important in order to have these people take things for granted, and that they
Yes.
realize that they shouldn't, then they should.
And see, and
And
what people don't think about, and what you guys probably don't think about, I got this sponsored. So if they don't see people participating, then this sponsorship's getting ready to run out. And so I show my numbers and I show the questions that were asked. I may not be able to get it sponsored again after August.
That's a good point. That's a very good point right there. Yeah.
This is Jackie, Sherita, and I totally agree with Beverly. And I was going to say the same thing. If something is in there, like if you submit a question, you need to be on the line. We just need your participation so that we can continue this.
Well, a lot of people can't. Like you guys, I get a lot of emails where people say, well, Sherita, I'm at work, but so I get that. And that's why I'm saying I don't mind that people can't be on. The fact that they've registered and asked questions, my sponsor still sees that. But make sure
those people
where they're questions that I can answer,
Would your sponsors be open to reviews for people that can't actually attend? Can people submit a review, a writing, a whatever, validating the benefit of the sessions, even when they're watching them on repeat?
I will even say that in the recap, that if you see this as a value, can you just write a couple of sentences on how it benefits you or whatever. Because yes, that would be a major plus, because what I'm doing is I'm actually coming up in 2025, what I want to do based off of this kind of thing is I want to create a core group of people where it might be 20 people, but I've gotten sponsorship where I'm offering coaching every week with this core group of people and helping you go after funding. So at the end of the year, this core group has secured more than 1.5 million because of the coaching and collaborate. So that's everything I do, you guys, is leading to how can I help broader?
I will
And
support you any and every way I possibly can in that initiative. You just say the word.
okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I, again, like Beverly, Sunny, I mean, Jackie, you guys have been in my classes also, and I appreciate that you show up. And that's one of the things that I was even saying to Marshall, my accountant. I said, for people, and that's what I want you guys to pay attention to in your programs. When people keep showing up, you're doing something right. And so you want to, and that's what they mean. Those are deliverables. That shows, because if I wasn't doing something right, you guys wouldn't keep showing up. And so how can I show that more so that now, because what a lot of people don't understand, you guys, is me coming to Arkansas, besides my little savings, I have almost been broke. Because coming to Arkansas, I had to start anew. See, all the things I can brag about what I've done in Los Angeles and across the world, but it's very easy to operate from Los Angeles because everybody in the world wants to be connected to LA or to Paris or to New York. But who wants to be connected to Arkansas? So when I came to Arkansas, I had to get here, get established, get my farm going, show that I can do this here. I can still keep my business going. I can still do business classes, all these things. So now I'm just now getting where I'm fundable. I've been operating only off of fee for service and getting small sponsorships to offer my classes lower because like here in Arkansas, they're not going to pay the rates that I was getting in Los Angeles. And the fact that I was operating from Beverly Hills versus Hattieville, you guys, that makes a difference.
Big difference.
And so all the things that I'm teaching you about showing who you've worked with, what are your goals? How have you done that in the past? What kind of relationships have I developed now here in Arkansas? Everything that I teach you guys, I've had to start from ground zero myself coming here. And so by me offering this and getting the small sponsorship to cover me while I'm doing this, and see, before even getting on with you guys, I'm spending hours answering the questions, doing some research. So though the class is an hour, I'm spending 3 hours time. And so I got a small sponsorship to cover me for a certain amount of months to see, is this going to work? But what I'm saying to you guys is, as you are developing your organizations, like before I got to where I am, I offered this kind of thing for free and it wasn't sponsored. But what it did is it created my track record. And so you guys are going to have to figure out ways to create your track records in different ways that aren't too taxing on you, but you can just get busy within your organization and it not cost you overhead and it not cost you 8 hours a day, that kind of thing, but it's still giving you traction. Okay. The other thing,
I adore you. You're so remarkable.
Thank you. And the other thing that was said is they like that they're seeing diversity on my calls. And
that's because of you. That's because you allow and that's because of your presence. You really invite that. You really invite that. And I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And like I said at the workshop, I'm gonna share this and I'm gonna let you guys go. I have been speaking for 30 years. The most nervous I've been was speaking at the Rialto here in Arkansas recently. So nervous, you guys, and I've never done this before. I prayed in the middle of stage because I have never been in an area that all my life I heard that Arkansas was prejudiced. I had relatives leave Arkansas running, going to Kansas City, Texas, and other closer areas, getting away from racism. Coming here, and I've even had people say, "Girl, you in Arkansas, you're in Trump country." Well, no, I'm in people country. I'm in a country where no matter where we are, no matter who we interact with, people want to be People want to be able to support their families. People want to be happy. People want to have a peaceful neighbor, no matter who they are. But getting up on stage and just some of the, just a little of the interaction that I've gotten, it made me nervous that I am possibly going to have enemies in the audience.
Mhm.
That made me nervous. But you know what I said? I said, Lord, no matter what, people just want to be able to live peacefully. They're in this room because they want to know. They're in this room because I must have some kind of knowledge. But that is where I was initially when I first got on stage, being here in Arkansas and being raised by parents that left Arkansas because of that.
Mhm.
And it had me almost where I first couldn't speak when I first started. But once I got on a roll, and you guys, you just have to know that whenever you have those kinds of feelings, know what you know, what you know. Because when you know what you know, all you have to do is get started and you forget and just keep moving. And that's why through what I teach, I want to help you do what you love until you're dirt again. You guys, you know, I have shirts ordered saying that. I want to do what you love until you're dirt again, because the more that we can
Love
connect
it.
to that, we're going to be happier people, and the people around us will feel it, will be it, and it'll resonate. All right.
Ron Carpenter preached a sermon one time. In fact, he wrote a book called Enemies. And through 30 some odd years of adversity, massive adversity in a great big super diverse church in Greenville, South Carolina that didn't want to be diverse, he said every time in his life he can track where just prior to his biggest, most remarkable breakthroughs, he faced some of the scariest opposition and adversity over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say to you that feeling that you had on that stage and that town, which I'm quite familiar with, and the attitudes in and around there among the rest of Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
was a good testament to the impact that's on the other side of that and what's calling to you. You've changed my life.
Oh my
life.
God. Oh my
We'll
God.
talk about it. We'll talk about it one day, but I can't. I've got to make you understand how you've changed and impacted my life, and that's one person. So I know in my spirit that there is something of massive importance here for you, and your struggle in that moment is just a testimony to how big and how magnificent what you're going to do here is.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
So
God.
sweet. So sweet.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so, so much. Well, prayers are being answered. And that's why, you guys, the more that when I shifted my coaching to teaching people and not being afraid to also talk about how God interacts in my life, when I got past that fear to also talk from that perspective, my coaching changed, but also the outcomes that my clients received changed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more I can help them connect to their, whatever your passions are, whatever your skills are, whatever you truly
Right.
want to do, that is God showing up. And the more that I can help you do that, identify funders, identify collaborations, life gets so much more juicy. It gets so rich. It gets so fun.
Absolutely.
Even when the best way I can say it, even when you're going, because we are going to have hurdles, but it's like having good shocks on a car. You don't feel the bumps as bad. You don't just
That's
like,
right. That's
bump?
right.
Yeah. And so that's why when I can help people do that, you guys, I've been playing with my hair. So, and I was off camera, but I figured I'd come on camera. But when you can, you guys, like right now, even with my chicken with the leg broken, I'm up there and I'm trying to hold her and I'm putting the bandage on, or I bandaged her the other day while I was putting on a new bandage, and I'm talking to her and I'm like, oh, and I'm sorry, I can do that. I can just get off the phone and maybe something really had me worked up, a client or whatever. Like it's amazing the outstanding debt that I have. But when I can go outside and do those things, it's like riding in a car with good shocks. You forget. And so just know that also, if your organization, if I can help you expand what you were doing. Maybe at first you were just thinking on 2 or 3 programs, and the more you're on this call, you're thinking of doing something else. Let's talk about that. How can I help you expand on that? And And you guys remember, and I think I mentioned this at the very beginning, if you're part of these classes and then you want coaching, it's 25 an hour instead of the 150. If you are part of these
That is
classes.
good to know. I did not
And
know that.
yeah.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, and so and I'll say it again also in the recap. I'm gonna have to play this back to remember all the things I'm gonna say in the recap. But again, that's part of the reason why the sponsorship, I talked about the things I want to do, and those that are consistent, those that are showing up, they can still get the coaching, the one-on-one at a massive reduced rate so that I can help you move forward. Because the other reason I wanted to do this, you guys, this is more than about money. Nothing hurts me more than to help someone get their nonprofit up and going. And I talk to them 2 years later and I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, girl, I let that go. What? You paid the fee, you paid me, and you like, well, people were telling me it wasn't going to work, and I'm like, oh my God, if I hear that again,
Don't worry about people.
Yeah, and so that's why I figure if I can do something like this where people are getting questions answered and almost kind of like mini coaching, it'll help more people to be more effective and get their organizations operating, because your organization should be walking right along with you with your for-profit, because there's somebody that needs you that couldn't afford you. So anyway, you guys, I can talk forever, but thank you for being on. Thank you for valuing this. And Melissa, I sent you that email. I'll follow up with you because I've got to be in Little Rock. Matter of fact, I'm flying out to Little Rock. I'm flying out next Wednesday at 6, but maybe I can come in a little early and we grab a bite before I get on the plane.
That would be good, because there's some people downtown that are doing some really big Black economic growth initiatives, both in Little Rock and in Pine Bluff. I just saw kind of the person that's in charge of that on Tuesday, and I mentioned you to him, and he's looking forward to meeting you. So if we can have a pre-talk before, I've got 2 real big people I need to connect you with.
Okay. Well, all right. And Beverly, I want to hear what you're doing, what your thoughts are since we finished the class. And Sunny, I'm sure, let's talk about your event in case I can give some pointers. So, and Belinda Rando. Hello, Belinda. I don't know if you've been on before. How are you? You have voice? Well, thank you for being on. And hopefully we will talk soon. I don't think I saw questions from you, but thank you for being on. And ladies, have a wonderful weekend. And talk to you soon. I hope you guys can see me okay, because as you can see, my ring light is back behind me. I didn't even put it on.
No, we see you. We see
You're
you.
glorious as always.
Always. Thank you,
All
Sherita. I'll
righty.
be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Sunny. Sunny,
Bye,
when's the event?
everybody.
When is
I'm
the
sorry?
event, Sunny?
It's July 21st.
July 21st.
My birthday.
My mom's birthday
all
too.
right now.
Happy birthday. Maybe you can come, Beverly. You're not far away.
Look, I was thinking because someone was talking about me coming to Florida, but you're not close to Orlando, are you?
Yeah, I am. The event's in Orlando, downtown Orlando.
Oh, you gotta tell me. Well, Sunny, I'll call you about it because I'm in Tampa, so maybe.
I know.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
an organization that's talking about bringing me there to speak. So,
Awesome. Let us know.
all righty. You
All
guys
right.
have a
All right.
good one.
You too.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.